Okay, we're starting. 1 second. We're starting today Perek Beis in Sefer Yehoshua, and we're going to read the first pasuk. Vayishlach Yehoshua binun min hashitim shnaim anoshim meraglim cheresh le'emor l'chu re'u es ha'oretz ve'es Yerichoi vayavoyu beis isha zoyno u'shmo Rochov vayishkevu shamo. So let's have a little short synopsis of where we are at what time and some kind of chronological order of was tut sich da. The Gemara in Tainis Daf Tes Amud Aleph says as follows: Shalosh matonos toivos nitnu leYisrael. Klal Yisrael got 3 matonos: the Mann, the Anone Koved, and the Be'er. The Be'er was B'schus Miriam. The Anone Koved was B'schus Aaron HaKohen. And the Mann was B'schus Moshe. Just to give you a short understanding where we are, I always like to stick to the chronological order. Klal Yisrael goes out of Mitzrayim, Mishnat Beis Alofim, 2448, L'Brias Ha'olam. They stick around 40 years in the Midbar, and they come into Eretz Yisrael on 2488. If we count the years, the calendar years in 2487, on Yud Nisan, which is exactly 1 year prior to their coming into Eretz Yisrael, as we're soon going to see, they're going to cross the Yarden on Yud Nisan 2488. Miriam dies. Gemara steht nicht. Gemara says she just died b'chodesh Nisan. But Miriam dies. Later on, the very same year, steht in Torah, Psukim and Furoshim, Be'echod lechodesh of chodesh HaChamishi, in the very same year, Aaron dies. Moshe dies the following year, Zayin Adar. So basically, in the 40th year, since the 40th year began in Nisan, they came out this Oyulat, this Vav Nisan. So on the 40th year, not really 40th, couple days, 2 weeks beforehand, Miriam dies. A week beforehand, Yud Nisan. 4 or 5 months later, Aaron dies, and Moshe dies just a month and a few days prior to their going to Eretz Yisrael. Now the Gemara steht as Be'emes says Miriam dies, so the Be'er, which is B'schuso, stops. Klal Yisrael has water supply, B'schus Miriam. She dies, the water stops. V'chozro, as I state in the Gemara in Tainis, B'schus Moshe ve'Aaron. The water, the question is a very big question. One said a goyen, a fascinating goyen. How long did this stop of water take? You know, there's a water shortage. They put up signs, there'll be no water. How many hours will the water stop? Visiv Aistes from the goyen stops from the time Miriam died till she was Dikper, which was also a question. She died on Shabbos, but to cover Shom, how long it takes. The Gemara brings out a rayas. Not allowed to be mailing the mace, Isha Sheifas, you have to bury it right away. Question is, but there was a water stoppage. The Chozro, it had to be stopped, and it wasn't an hour. It was apparently a 24-hour period, was no water for Klal Yisrael. The Chozro b'chushte. Came Rosh Chodesh of the Anone Koved were Nistalik. These Anonim, which were either, okay, let's take the Poshet Chazal and the Mechilta, 7 Anone Koved, which were protecting them from sun, from anything and everything. The Anone Koved, which watched Klal Yisrael with Chus Aaron, they vanished. Vayishma Knani Melech Hanei Melech. The Knani hears Mashmu Hashem Ubo. Shenistalk Shemeis Arv and Nistalk Anonei Kovet. So they stopped the Anonei Kovet. What happens? Chozru Bischus Moshe. Then we come to the last year here. Right now, Moshe Avdi Meis. Moshe dies, and everything stops. Now, there's really a question. The Gemara says everything stopped. The Gemara addresses the issue, what happened with food. The Gemara doesn't talk about, and when we'll get in Mirz Hashem to Perek Hey Yavav, we'll say a separate shiur, what happens from the time Moshe Rabbeinu dies, and Zayin Adar, till they walk into Eretz Yisrael, which is 33 days later, what happened with the water supply? What happens with the Anonei Kovet? How long did the Anonei Kovet escort them? The Goyen Vaystois in Divrei Hayomim, that the Anonei Kovet escorted them till they came to Eretz Yisrael. Ad Boyem al Eretz Neishavis and the Anonei Kovet. If Moshe dies, Nistalku Kulom, and here's the Gemara, Meis, I think you have the Gemara, steht in the Gemara, Meis Moshe, Nistalku Kulom, Shenema ve'achid es shloisha saroim beyerach echod, v'chi beyerach echod, Meis v'alomer yo, Meis abenisam v'aram be'o Moshe be'ador, elo melamed shenitzbatlu sholish matono istoives, shenitno al yodom Nistalku Kulom beyerach echod. So the Gemara says very clearly and precisely that when Moshe dies, and there is no more, nobody on the rebound to rejuvenate this matonos toives, stopped. V'kulom, and that's the posuk in the Novi, v'achid shleisha saroim b'yerach echod. B'yerach echod means really the stoppage. It's a posuk in Zechariah, and the posuk in Zechariah means that b'yerach echod. Okay, Moshe Rabbeinu dies. They still didn't get to Eretz Yisrael. What happens with the Mann? What happens with the Mann? Zayin Ador gotta eat. You gotta have food. There's no other food around. What happens with the Mann? So let me take you through the back door. There's a Sugyas HaGemara in Kiddushin, Daf Lamed Zayin Amud Beis on the bottom continues on Lamed Ches Amud Aleph, and you have the Gemara. The Gemara is a shaila. All the mitzvahs which the Torah says El Eretz, they're supposed to be Moishovois, Eretz Mishavchem. When the mitzvahs Hatluyos Ba'oretz, which the Torah calls it Eretz Moishki Savayu, when as the Biyah commence. There's two mandam. It's basically two blot in the Gemara, Rabbi Shmuel, Rabbi Akiva. If in second they came to Eretz Yisrael, those days, from that moment on, they crossed the Jordan River, the Michoel mitzvah Hatluyos Ba'oretz. Or you gotta wait 14 years, because we know that once they came into Eretz Yisrael, there was Sheva Shekipshu, Sheva Shechilku. 7 years it took him to conquer, to go through a Milchama. 7 years to split. And by the way, and I think we said it prior to this year, but let me read. The Kibush, which is called Kedusha Rishayno, Kibush Rishon, which is called Kibush Oile Mitzrayim, because those are the people coming out of Mitzrayim, commences at this year 2488 and goes on all the way to David and Shloimeh, because the Eretz Yisrael is not fully freed from all the Zion Amamim till then. The vast majority, how much? The Machlekes with the Radak and the Goyen later on in further Psukim, Perek, Yud Beis, Yud Gimel, Yud Daled, how much of Eretz Yisrael was captured? Part of it wasn't. One of the places, a pocket of resistance, the Yevusi set in Yerushalayim, and they didn't free the Yevusi until it was a shvuah for the Plishtim with Avram, with Tagan Semaise, but they did not free Eretz Yisrael. And this entire period and era is called Kedusha Rishayno, Kibush Rishon, Kibush Oile Mitzrayim. The Rambam calls it Yeshua v'David v'Shloimeh. Kedusha Shniya is after Beis Hamikdash is Nechov. They go to Golus 70 years, they come back after 70 years. They rebuild Bisman Ezra v'Nechemia, Chorash v'Amasger. They rebuild Eretz Yisrael, they rebuild the second temple. And then Kedusha Shniya, that's called Kibush Oile Bavel, and that's the Kedusha Shniya we have till today. Kedusha Rishon is the Shayla Gemara, Kedusha Rishon, Kitchel Shatem, Kitchel Lo, Kitchel Lo, Lo. So the Machlekes in the Gemara, mitzvahs Hatluyos Ba'oretz. Till now, they're in the midbar. Never heard of any mitzvahs Hatluyos Ba'oretz. Not Trumas, not Maisros. And let's focus about right now Isur Chodesh. What is the Isur Chodesh? You're not allowed to eat. Forget about Chodesh in Chutz La'aretz right now. Let's talk about chodesh in Eretz Yisrael. You're not allowed to eat from the new crop, from the new tevuah, until you makriv the oimer. The oimer, which is nikriv on the second day of Pesach, is the matir of tevuah chadosha to be eaten from this year. So long that you're not makriv the oimer, you're not allowed to eat from tevuah chadosha. The Gemara is a shaila, if the isur chodosh, amongst other mitzvahs atluyos ba'aretz, the Gemara puts chodosh in the package. If the isur chodosh began as soon as they came to Eretz Yisrael and Yud Nisan of that year, or no, we got to wait 14 years till there'll be a isur chodosh. So more kasha, fascinating kasha. I'm trying to make a long story short because I want to cover more ground. The Gemara is kasha, if you hold Moish V'Yiseichem, Klape isur chodosh, only begins 14 years later, so it comes out that when they come to Eretz Yisrael, first 14 years, which those were the years of Mishkan in Gilgal, the Mishkan, which is, by the way, the very same Mishkan we took from the Midbar, we reconstructed it in Gilgal, and was there for 14 years till they built Mishkan Shilei. So the question is, during the time of the Gilgal, do we need the akrova of the Omer to be matir the Isur Chodosh, or is the Isur Chodosh mutter even prior to that, because the commencement of the Isur only begins, the Teres of Moshe Seichem means to say you have to be Yoshev. And Yeshiva is called per Rabbi Shmuel, is only once it's conquered and you already dispersed the Nachla to each and every Shevet, Tachas Gafne v'Tachas Teinos. So Moise Kashe, there's a pasuk later. Look, Vayachanu bnei Yisrael ba'Gilgal vayasu es haPesach ba'Arbos yom l'chodesh ba'erev ba'arvo Yericho. The first Pesach, which is happening 4 days after they came in and Yud Nisan and Yud Daled Nisan Erev Pesach already make the first Korban Pesach. And the pasuk says Vayoichlu me'avur ha'oretz mimocharas haPesach matzois ve'kolui be'etzem hayoim hazeh. They ate me'avur ha'oretz. What is avur? The word avur means from the tevuah, from the crop of Eretz Yisrael, me'etzem hayoim hazeh, which means seemingly pashat pshat. We learned min balabatish. Pashat pshat means that they did not eat the new tevuah chadosho till after Vayases HaPesach, Vayochlu me'avur ha'oretz mimocharas haPesach, which means a day after Pesach. The ganze tesis along the tesis Ben Ezra. What is mimocharas? Mimocharas haPesach is a headache for 3 shiurim, but we'll not talk about it. But apparently it means to say that they did not eat tevuah chadosha till the second day of Pesach when the Omer was Korav. The Isur Chodosh was noig as soon as they came to Eretz Yisrael. I understand why they only began to eat the tevuah chadosha a day after Pesach. But according to the Mann that holds that the tevuah chadosha is be'emes no Isur Chodosh till after Yehoshua Yeshiva, Moshe Seichem is lacher Yehoshua Yeshiva. So let them eat right away. What do they have to wait till this Machras HaPesach for Avur Haaretz? So the Gemara comes alone and says, you know why they didn't eat? Be'emes is as soon as you walk into Eretz Yisrael, you can take any tevuah, any crop, any tevuah and eat it. Only thing is that they ate from the leftover, from the residual of the Mann that they had Bekeilayim until Tes Zayin Nisan, they had Mann left over from Zayin Adar till the Zayin Nisan. As I state in the Gemara, Gemara says because there's a steer in the Psukim. Steht doch bnei Yisrael echlu samon 40 shana ad boyom el eretz noishaves es haman ochlu ad boyom el eretz Knan. The Gemara says Ktsei eretz Knan is arvus moy. But let's go Rashi. It says the man they ate till Ktsei eretz Knan. Ktsei means the edge. What does the edge means? The eastern bank of the Jordan River on the Tzad HaMizrachi. They ate the man till before they crossed the Yarden. And then the end of the pasuk says Eretz Neishavis, which means they ate the man in Eretz Yisrael. What's happening here? The Gemara has to steer it. Elo zog the Gemara that be'emes is the man was posak the time Moshe Rabbeinu dies. Okay? If I get also the Mara Mekoimis, I can read it. The man, they state the Gemara, take a look at you Mara Mekoimis. Bishlam alamad makom mokum shatim yoshvim mashmayin ksiva yochum avur haaretz mochas haPesach. Mochas haPesach ochel mikol ochel. Alma okruv oime v'ado ochel. Omando machim Yehoshua Yeshiva nechel alter. Let him eat right away. So the Gemara have it tzriche. Why? The Ksiv bnei Yisrael ochlu samon alboim shon alboim eretz mishavis. Es saman ochlu ad boyam al eretz ekseretz knan. Yef shalom alboim eretz mishavis shekvar nema el ekseretz knan. V'yef shalom ekseretz knan shanem alboim eretz mishavis. Okay, so Shiva be'ador meis moish posek hamam mileiret v'oyu mistapik miman shebekeileim ad shisho asor be-nisel. Before the Tanya Idach. This is the first. More says, you know what? Moshe Rabbeinu died, and they had enough man in the kelim, 40 days worth of man. So the reason why the din yichul mavur oretz is because the supply line lasted for 40 days. Not because you need to wait for the Isur Chodesh, but the supply line, you know, the question is really, the Isur halacha in the man of Leisa Sirim Imenu Ad Baker. There's the Isur on the man to be Meiser. Man that's nitoisa for tomorrow. Let's say the Rishonim has a kasha. How could they leave the man after Moshe Rabbeinu? So the Rambam Sefer HaMitzvah says the kasha, and the Rambam says this Isur of Leisa Sirim Imenu on the man was only called man shehoya Moshe Chai. But when Moshe died, there's no Isur. So Moshe dies, and there's a huge amount of man. What's a huge amount? 40 days worth of supply of goods, of Tvuah, and Mimele, they could eat the man bekeileim. You know, the man is lechem elikim. I once heard from my chavrus, Moira Rabbi, Reb Shimon Moshe Diskin, a wonderful vort. If I just made, he came to the Brisker Rov and he told him the vort. Brisker Rov was very stark anogat. It says by Dosan ve'aviram they did not hear v'leishomu Moshe v'yosiru menu ad boiker v'yorum tuloim v'yivosh. Started getting warmy. V'yivosh. It got fajavet, it got rotten, totally rotten. Some people didn't believe in it, they left the man over. Here, the Rambam says there's no Easter, so they could leave it for 40 days. But in the time of Moshe, why does the Torah say Vayom Toloim Vayivash? There's a whole goyen, and I'm not getting involved right now in the goyen, but he said a phenomenal thing. Be'emes, the goyen says that there are four things: Chai, Tzemeach, Doimim, and Medaber. There are four things. And the midah of kilkul is kemidah of the chiyus. In other words, daimim could last forever. Table will never get rotten. Tzemeach, which has already some kind of a chibur to a mokor, to a source of livelihood, cut a flower. Okay, it'll tell you that tulips stay for a week, but it's gone. After a couple of days, they rot away and they vanish. Chai, a behemoth dies. 24 hours, 48 hours, starts first verstunken. Medaber, the midas hakilkul of the odom, which is mace, is greater than behemoth, kama v'kama rayis. So the more connection, the more chiyus it has, the greater the midah of kilkul and ipush when it's nitak, when it gets disconnected from its source of chiyus. Said the man was a lechem elikim, lechem abirim ol chalish. The man was a lechem elikim. It was given for a certain tachlis. Torah says, "Leisasiru imenu ad boiker." Yuchias is for today. In the moment, the purpose of the man of not to leave it over till tomorrow is gone. Is not only he gets fafoiled, vayorum toloim vayivash, he gets so rotten, so fafoiled because they're lakus, the lechem elikim. More says shenivla. Be'emosayim, v'arboim, v'shmoyim, v'edvorim, mitzvachnis, v'enamoitzi, it's lechem alochim, it's lechem shamayim, dgan shamayim. This man, which is a helik, a himmelish food, is something that Kolzman it has to eat. It was crisp, steht in Rambam. It was crispy. So long that you would think the timetable, it was as good and fresh as a bagel in the morning. At the night, for supper, you had the same bagel in the morning, the same bagel at night. And weiter, in the second, the purpose is gone because tomorrow you have a new man. This man is not only starts getting rotten. Vayolum toiloim vayivash, she becomes fully wormy and fafoiled. A beautiful word told to the Biskarov. The Biskarov was very stark. I know, almost made a shidduch from this word. So this is one Gemara. The next Gemara, take a look at the Gemara weiter. The Gemara says Tanya Idach. Gemara has another. Ubnei Yisrael ochlu amal arboim shono. V'chi arboim shono ochlu v'aloi arboim. And by the way, where do you get to 40 days? Because how much was the man? Ksir Seifo. How much is the shiur of Eifo? I'm telling you a secret, Goyen, because it's not Yadua. Doilam knows the word partially from the Mikna, but it's a Goyen. How much is the Eifo? 432 Beitzim. How much is Asir Seifo? 43 and a Chaimish. Beitzim. How much is a Beitza? 2 Zeisim. Let's try to remain on a consensus statement amongst most Shitas. It's 2 Beitzim. So 43, let's leave the Chaimish. I have a shtickle territory for the Chaimish, but let's put the Chaimish on the side. 43 Beitzim. 43 Beitzim is 86 Kazaisim. The 40 days, you eat the Kazais. Achille is a Kazais in the morning, Kazais at night. Sechs Shabbosim, darf man essen, noch Asude. So the Goyen, the Oimer, which is Asir Seifo, which is 43 Beitzim, is the 86 Kazaisim, which you needed for the Sudas. That's why it clinched off into Zion. Das Makne, I think, steht the ganze Wort. Also, bei Lamaise, she steht Iber in Likutei Agro, the selbe Wort. So the Gemara. וכי 40 שנה אוכל ו40 שנה חוסר יש 30 ימים אלא עמך אוגויס שהוציאו ממצרים תואמו בהם טעמן. Gemara, the second Manda Omer said, 40 שנה חוסר 30 ימים, because it's missing 30 days. Because when did the Mann start? The Mann started to Zion, as it steht in Rashi in Parshas Beshalach, in the Zion year, in the Chodesh Hasheni, in the 16th day of the Chodesh Hasheni. And they ate it till Pesach. And Mochas HaPesach, they already ate Mavur Aretz. So they're missing. So the Gemara, what is Arboim Shana? It's Arboim Shana missing minus 40 days, because Lamai said they didn't commence in the beginning, when they started following the man, till the Zion year. So the Gemara, the Ugois, Chometz, the Ugois Matzah, that they were Moitzi, they did, by the way, if you have a guess in Matzah there, I'm giving you some food for thought. This is to go home to, for after mint, after 12, think about it. How do they give the matzah? We didn't guess the matzah. We guess the man matzahs. More says it only started the next day. It was mistapkim iman shebekeileim. The first time they ate from Tvuas Eretz Yisrael was mimochar as Pesach. But we didn't guess the matzahs by the seder. Brisker matzahs, Lakewood Chabura hand matzah. Well, how do they have matzahs? Matzahs daf men essen for Tvua. They did eat from Tvua Chadosh the matzahs. Shimshet is Fadira Shaila. In any event, it's not my akasha, it's the Ritva's akasha, so you rest in peace. Akoponim, the shaila is, the Gemara said they did not eat only from the man till the Mochas HaPesach, because they had left over, and we had a beautiful cheshbon of the WhatsApp. So the Gemara, the reason why it says 40 days is because the Ugois, the Hoitziu Mitzrayim, had a time of man. So Michoel, Aboim Shon Ochle Saman, doesn't mean, 39 years and 11 months they ate a real man. And for the first month, they ate the Ugois, which had a time, man, which had all the time in the world, and that's considered 40 years. Zog the Gemara, Tanya Yidach. Look at the Gemara. Beshiva Be'adar, we're getting right now back to our Yeshua, to our homeland, to start going right. Zog the Gemara. Beshiva Be'adar meis Moshe, Beshiva Be'adar noilah. Minayin Beshiva Be'adar meis, Shenema Vayoma Shal Moshe Eved Hashem. V'ksiv Hayivku B'nei Yisrael, Es Moshe Be'adar, Es Moshe Shloishim Yoim. V'ksiv Moshe Avdi meis, V'ato Kum Avoyer. וכסיב אובו בקבע מחנה וצוב וסום למחנה לכם צידי כבו שלוש יום תבו וסיירדם וכסיב אובו מן הירדם בעשור לחודש הראשון צא מהם שלושים למפרע או לומד אותו שבשיבה אבא מייס מוישה. I don't know שבשיבה אבא מייס מוישה. 30 days בני ישראל was boiche מוישה באבס מויוב. Then it said that they came in 3 days. We saw in the first parak, anybody remembers from a couple of weeks ago, boich shlosh yom we're coming into Eretz Yisrael. So 30 days plus 3 days, 33. We Yud Nisan is a Pasuk Polish. Take it backwards, retroactive. Michoel, it comes out that Moshe Rabbeinu died in Zion Adar. Frek Tesis Akash. And Frek Tesis Akash. Look at Tesis. Pirush. Look at reference number 4. Pirush Bekun Shloshim Yom Ondu Ba'abos Moyed Lebechi Umshemitztava Yeshua La'achion La'asiyon Achinu Lechem Tzeido L'derech Shloishi Yomim, כי דקסי בו 30 יום, אתם רואים, נמצא שכלו 30 יום, אבל מוישה בזיין ניסן. ולמחרס ביום חס דיבר הקדוש ברוך הוא מישוע, שקודם לכן לא דיברים, אשר נשחיר נשיינו מתוך עצמוס. והיינו דקסי ואומרו מן הירדם בעשור לחודש. Before 30 days, the Shechina is not. He's Atzvus, he's Evel, no Shechina within 30 days. So comes the Kodesh Baruch Hu talks to Moshe in Zion Nisan, because it's the 30 days after, what's his name? 3 days over Sayarden. You got to go back. This is the Raya Moshe Rabbeinu died on Zion Adar. Zok Taisis, V'hi Kshari, Mikroach Rine, T'ksi B'Yeshua V'hi Miktzei Shlosh Yishom V'yomer, Hashem Yeshua Elo Miskatro, Ki Mochor Yaseh Lochem Mikibech Nifloes, ומקצה שליש יום מהיום אסיר וקרום עליהם למוחם עמה בי"א וקרום הבשר לחודש. It says it's 3 days, and then he says tomorrow. So it's additional day. If it's additional day, comes out, it has to be Yud Aleph Nisan. The Pasuk says Yud Nisan. Zokteis v'yesh meforshim. Look at Tesis, in reference number 5. Shakodesh Baruch Hu diber im Yeshua b'yom lamed evel Moshe shu zayin b'siva. ואף על פי, ואף על גב דין שכינה שרים מתוך עצוס, מכל מקום מקצס היום ככולוי, וקוראים עלו בו את 3 יומים תברס היד לבד מאויסי יום שרים בישוע. וישוע אומר מקצה ג' יומים, עם אויסי יום שניסייחד עמו הדיבו, דהיינו למד בייס, כי יעשה מוחו, דהיינו למד גילה, ויום עשיר בחודש. This is יום עשיר בחודש. So this goes to the מקצס היום ככולוי, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu spoke to Yeshua in the 30th day. He didn't wait 30 days. Within the 30th day, Zion Nisan, Miktzasayim Kekul, he told him within 3 days is Milvadis, but Yeshua counted that day. So Yeshua tells him, Bates, L'mochor, Melech comes out, Yud. I would like to share with you a very, very, look at Rashi. Anybody who's holding Yeshua, look at Rashi, at the first Rashi in this Perek base. Look at Rashi. Rashi says, Vayishlach Yeshua al kochach tzorich ani loimar shebetoich evel Moshe shlocho. Zogt Rashi, the Malochim, this Meraglim went out in the middle of Evel Moshe. Shari l'seif shleish yom shetamu yemei Evel Moshe over Yisayarden. Shemishom anu lemedim shemeis Moshe b'shiva be'adar. כשאת מוינה 33 למפרע מיום שולם מן היד בוסר לחודש, ועל כוחך משנשתלך מרגלים לא יעברו היד עד יום חמישי, שנאמר, וישבו שלום 13 ימים עד שבוע הרדפים, בואי בלילה ויבוא ויבוא אל ישוע בנום, וישכם ישוע בוקר ויצא מן השיטים עד יום רביעי, ויעלו שלום עד יבוא אל נמצא שלא יבוא עד יום חמישי. Rashi has a problem, because there's 5 days. It says that 3 days, and Mishnishtalchu Meraglim, till they crossed the Yarden, had to be a total of minimum 5 days. Why? Because it says, after the Meraglim came back, Vayashkim Yeshua B'Boiker, the next morning, Vayisu Min Hashitim, is Yom Reviyu, Vayolinu, Vayavayiru. So there's another 5 days. So Trashi, if you can't fight City Hall, state in Posuk, that they crossed on Asir B'Nisan. So Trashi, Behechrech, that Yeshua sent the Meraglim, this Meraglim, but we're talking about on Hey B'Toy Chazman. Kodesh Baruch Hu doesn't talk to him. Listen to the absurd. Kodesh Baruch Hu doesn't talk to him because Ein Ashir L'Shchina B'Toy Chatzvus. So Yeshua, without any Dibur Ashchina, this comes out. Rashi has a problem. Without any Dibur Ashchina, in Chamisha L'Chodesh Nisan sends him because you have a minimum 5 days. Rashi counts in the Psukim. 10th of Nisan they cross. 3 days, 1 day, 1 day, 5 days. 5 days, it has to be that the Meraglim left in Hey Nisan, which is the 28th day of the Avelos of Moshe, and Ashchina Shayim, B'toich Shleishim Yoyim, B'toich Atzos, the state in Tev, Vayivku Kol Ad Yisrael Moshe. Apparently, Shchina didn't speak to him, because that's our halacha, Ein Ashchina, B'toich Efel, B'toich Etzev, B'toich Bechi. So apparently Yeshua shikta Meraglim, unzer Meraglim, our Meraglim are being sent by Yeshua without Tzivoy Hashem. The Goyen doesn't like it. Take a look at the Pirush HaGro. Anybody who has you could look either in the Psukim, in Perek Aleph, I don't know if you have today Perek Aleph, but if not, it's printed in the Goyen is printed in your reference in reference number 7. Steht in Goyen Azeh. This is Loshen HaGoyen. Whoever has a Chumash, whoever has a Navi, inside can take a look at the Goyen in Posuk Yud Aleph. In Perek Aleph, Posuk Yud Aleph, steht in Goyen. Okay, you could read it either in the Goyen or in the steht in Goyen. Pasuk Yud Aleph. Ki be'oid shloishes yomim, Rashi meforesh shezeh hoya betoich evel Moshe. Rashi says later in Perek Beis, where we're holding, that it happens during the Aval Iev Shalemaken. The Imkein Minalon Shebezayin Adar Meis Moshe. Kivishen on the Yodim Kamas betoich evel Moshe. So the Goyen, in as much that it's happened betoich evel Moshe, the Gemara has a concrete. It happened 3 days. Rashi has a kasha 5 days. How do you do the parnosa for 5 days? So Rashi says, Be'echrech, Yeshua sent them betoich hazman, within the Yemei Evel. Frag the Goyen, so what's the raya? Maybe he sent them in Rosh Chodesh, Nisan. You have no raya anymore. The whole cheshbon of the Gemara, the Bezayin Adar Meis Moshe, is gibayt on the 33. 3 plus 30, backwards from Yud Nisan, you come to Zayin Adar. So the Goyen, there's no raya. Rashi's raya falls off. The Gemara's raya falls off. Zog de Goyen aval I ef shaloimaken. You cannot say that. Venire. Listen to the Goyen's pshat. Shebe'ois hayom shesimu ivei Moshe de'aynu vov benisan. In Vov Nisan was the shloishim of Moshe. Be'ois hayom shalach es hameraglim. During that day he sent the meraglim. Ube'ois hayom bo etzel Rochav. And that day they came to Rochav. V'shilcha oisam tchilas leil Zion. She sent it, in other words, in Vav Nisan, Kadosh Baruch Hu talks to Yeshua. Yeshua does talk. And the 30th day, the Goyen says, B'yoim shesibu Vav Nisan, in a minute. And B'oisayim, they came to Rochav in the afternoon. And she sent them out back to run back, Tchilas Leil Zion. V'heima Yoshu Bahar Yoim Zion. V'yoim Ches, V'leil Tes. The 3 days is Yoim Zion, Yom Ches, and the night of Tes. Ubeoisa Laila holchu Yeshua. That night they went back to Yeshua. Vayashkem Yeshua baboiker, ainu baboiker shel Tes. Yeshua wakes up in the morning of Tes. Vayolinu sholom terem yavoru, ainu leil Yud, ubeyud over Esayhan. You're not going to the Naim Shat. Goyen doesn't want to go away. The Shechina is not Shleishim Yom. The Goyen doesn't want to go away with this Rashi's Pshikoter. Otherwise, the whole Gemara falls off. There's no Raya anymore. Moshe Rabbeinu died Zayin Adar. You got to stick to the recipe. So the Goyen, Vav Nisan, HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Yeshua. Yeshua tells them they go the same day. That night, they come to Rachav and after. The whole story that's happening here in this forthcoming parak is happening before Leil Zayin. She sends him Leil Zayin. Zayin Ches, they're there. Tes, start already after Shkia. Tes Nisan, that's the 3rd day. They come back to Yeshua. They sleep at night, that's already that first night. Yeshua says tomorrow, and that's Yud Nisan, and that's the Cheshbon. The problem is that if you look at the Jewish calendar, Me'olam loy motzinu Adar me'ubor. Chodesh Adar is always chaser. Since we have the Kiddush HaChodesh Alpich Cheshbon, Chodesh Adar is always 29 days. So when the Goyen comes up with the Goyen wants to stick to the recipe that Ein HaShechina Teichen Mitur Atzvus and Vayivku Shleishim Yom. There's no Shleishim Yom. Goyen says Vav Nisan. What's Vav Nisan? Be'echrech. The Goyen had gelernt that there was an Adar Me'uber. Chodesh Adar Shebe'ois HaShana 2488 Chodesh Adar. I'm going back to the calendar. There was a Chodesh Adar Me'ubor. The question is, we know that Adar is always Chaser. I want to take you to a second to the Sugyas HaGemorah in Menachas in Daf Lamed. The Gemorah comes in and says, let's skip Machmas Koitzer Azman, let's skip reference number 8, go straight to Tesis. Mashe Noagim Loi Matzidu Kadim B'Shabbos B'Mincha. Zok Tesis in Menachas in Daf Lamed. Why do we say Tzidkos Chotzedek Loilom? Pirush Rav Shar Sholem Goyen Al Shenifta Moshe Rabbeinu Beis Hashor. Lefichach Nimdu L'Asek B'Teilem Min Shamrin L'Chochem Shemeis Kol Botem Midrosha Shebair B'Teilem. The reason why we say Tzidkos Chotzedek Shabbos afternoon, you close the Gemara Chochem Shemeis, all the Botem Midroshes, got to close up shop. So Moshe Rabbeinu died Shabbos afternoon. Zokteis is v'koshe, v'oid koshe. Let's go to the second question. The Beseder oilo mashmo the b'shiva sha'ado meis Moshe erev Shabbos hayah. Why? Diktani v'achra Pesach b-22 sovavu esair kol ansha mulchom mo'ekev pa'am achas v'ayi b'yom hashvi v'yashkim b'boiker. Braise the Seder Oilom, which documents all the dates, says that they started making the Hakofa around Yericho and Chav Beis Nisan after Pesach. V'ksiv vayi b'yom hashvi hashki b'boker Rabbi Yossi Omer oisa yom Shabbos hoya. The Yom Hashvi, that the whole walls of Yericho collapsed, happened on Shabbos. Uvehashto mishitchilu l'sabe b'chav Beis Nisan im kein Yom Hashvi shehoya Shabbos chavches b'Nisan. Shabbos comes out was chavches because they started Sunday, 7th day chav Beis, it was chavches. Mit the chavches b'Nisan Shabbos Shiva be'ador erev Shabbos. If Taisus goes backwards, if chavches Nisan is what? How many days we have from chavches Nisan till Ador, till Zion Ador? So it depends. If Ador is Mole, so we have 50 days. If Ador is Chaser, like we know the calendar is 49 days. Taisus makes a cheshbon, since according to Bryce said it comes out that they went out, that the Choymes Yericho fell on Chavches, and Chavches was on Shabbos. Behechrech Zion, which is the previous month, 49 days, it was Erev Shabbos. Azay zokt Taisus. So we have a machlekes, a very, very big machlekes. The Moshe Rabbeinu died on Shabbos, or Moshe Rabbeinu died on Friday afternoon. In the times of Yeshua, I mean, this deserves a separate shiur, but in the time of Yeshua, the Mekadesh al Pi, 2 Eidim came and said they saw the Levana. In the times of Mekadesh al Pi, so some Chedesh was Choser, some Chedesh was Mola. This, so we have fixed that Adar is only 29 days, is only because we Mekadesh today al Pi Cheshbon. Bizman shehoyu Mekadshim al Pi. Okay, so we have Rabbeinu Chananel, the famous Rabbeinu Chananel, that says that in the Midbar, in the 40 years of Mekadesh al Pi Cheshbon, not al Pi. It's a Chiddush Gadol. Let's put it away on the side. The word Mekadesh al Pi because it was anone covered. There's anone covered you couldn't see through. The Eidim couldn't say Eidus. The Mekadesh al Pi Azay state Rabbeinu Chananel Huvo Bekama Mekoymes Bashas Ubifrat. Anybody wants to see a Chodesh Azel Lochem Chodesh Chodoshim in Rabbeinu Bechaya brings down the whole Machlekes Hashonim with the Mekadesh. But Pashta the Mekadesh al Pi calls man the word the Mekadesh al Pi. Certainly when it came to Yisrael, they started with Mekadesh al Pi. There is a halacha of loy adu roish v'lo badu Pesach. What does that mean? Rosh Hashanah can never be on Sunday, Wednesday, or Friday. Pesach can never be as a result. Pesach can never be on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. The reason why Pesach cannot be on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, because Pesach comes out always, 100%, Pesach comes out on the very same day of a certain amount of days after Rosh Hashanah. So if it's loy adu roish and loy badu Pesach, now the shaila is when they were mekadesh al pi cheshbon, were they makpid to have that the Pesach should not fall on Monday, Wednesday, or Friday? We don't have time, so since we don't have time, we're going to say it's a machlekes Rashi and Taisus in beginning of Perek Tov Nishcha. The Gemara says Chal is be'erev Shabbos, ki'ilu chal b'sheni b'Shabbos, and Rashi is puzzled. Why did it say ki'ilu chal? Ki'ilu chal b'yom chol. It should say b'yom rishon b'Shabbos. So Rashi says because lo yadu roish v'lo badu Pesach. Rashi says bizman she'em mekatrim al pi ariyah they weren't makpid. The reason why lo yadu roish v'lo badu Pesach, the Gemara says lo yush trei shave behade adad, that they shouldn't be Yom Kippur and Shabbos next to each other, and because he should not be giving up the Chavita Sarov, it should be on Shabbos. The Gemara says this. The question is, what happened to Mekadesh al Pi Ariyah? Did they have Allah of Lo Yadu Reish V'Lo Badu Pesach or not? Rashi says look at Rashi in reference number 2, reference number 10. Ki'ilu chal b'shem b'shal chayim miyom ha'achron lokat v'yikadam b'yom kama d'shapsa d'chozol ha'abasa v'chad b'shapsa d'chazol ha'abasa l'yibodu Pesach v'lav milsi sh'aroi al pi ariyah mekatshim. Doesn't make a difference. For Taisus Hakashe, okay, look 3 lines into reference 11. V'rashi she'ik shal pi ariyah mekatshim eino nira l'ri. The afal pi show you mekatchin al pi ariyah ho you nizorim shelo yavo trei shave be'ade adad. The amrin perekam de Rosh Hashanah me'ayim malaidim al chodi shenira shelo bizman shelo yiro. We have a great machlekes Rishonim. If bizman shelo mekatchin al pi ariyah there is Allah of lo yadu reish v'lo b'du Pesach, you have to be makpid Pesach should not come on Monday. I mean, the Cheshbon is very, very poshut to go in the Rashi. According to Rashi, that at the time of the Mekadosh al Piriya, they didn't care about Pesach coming out on Monday, right? So if Zayin Ador comes out on Shabbos, as Vishtei is bring from the Sar Shalom, 3 weeks later, it will be Chavches, 21. Chavtes is Sunday. If Chodesh Adar would be a Chodesh Choser, so comes out that Tetvov Nisan is when? I'm just going through the calendar with you. On a Monday. Das kann nicht sein, Lebadu Pesach. If Chodesh Adar would be Choser, and Zayin Adar, Moshe died on Shabbos. 3 weeks later is Chavches. Chavtes